Fair warning, friends, there are some major spoilers in this episode for Crimes of the Future and a lot of other Cronenberg movies, so enter at your own risk.
Doctor?
Come on, what?
Always do the right thing.
Get away from her, you bitch!
Shit just got real.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
Samsonite. I was way off.
Thank you for joining us for the new episode of Very Famous Movie Podcast. I'm Sean Robb.
I'm John Valley.
I am Robert Jordan Hunt.
And you better get your goop sacks ready, because today we're talking about David Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future.
Alrighty, Jordan, give us a little bit on the synopsis of Crimes of the Future, please.
Crimes of the Future takes place in a world where humans no longer feel pain and can no longer get infections. So body modification has really become quite popular, especially in the underground art scene, which brings us to Viggo Mortensen, who is a performance artist along with his partner Léa Seydoux, who specialize in taking out new organs that his body is making. We'll get into that a little bit more, but otherwise kind of like your classic Cronenberg, it kind of deals with humanity or what it means to be human and things like that. It's a pretty classic Cronenberg, I would say.
Yes, very classic. I thought that it was a pretty cool hybrid of Crash and Existenz.
I've never seen Crash.
You fucking piece of shit, how dare you?
This kind of underground rebel leader who you don't really know. What's the guy? It's
Scott Speedman.
Scott Speedman's character.
Lang Dotrice.
Lang Dotrice is sort of the leader of this underground movement trying to what?
Well, they're trying to encourage the evolution of human development, essentially.
Yes.
That's getting into a lot right
Yeah,
off
that
the
sort
bat.
of comes in a little bit later, and it's sort
The
of
opening
revealed.
scene, though, is like
the opening scene is
fucking wild.
Well,
Yeah.
without knowing anything, the opening sequence focuses on this child just sitting on the beach and a sort of like disgruntled mother telling him not to eat anything and to come in. And he comes inside, and clearly there's a sort of resentment emanating from this mother.
Big time.
And the child just goes into the bathroom, sits on the floor, and starts eating a plastic garbage
He's eating
bin.
the trash can.
And the mother is just sitting there, clearly not totally.
She's not happy about it.
She's not clearly not happy, and then it results in the next scene with her putting a pillow over the child's head as he sleeps, and subsequently killing him.
Yeah. She
Forever sleep.
She despises this child because he is very clearly different. She calls her husband's, I think, work.
Come retrieve the body. The plan that we had discussed of killing this child is complete.
Right.
And so that's kind of like one of the main movements throughout the movie is this sort of homegrown activist group.
Right.
And then there's this group of underground artists, and then there is the police element and this detective unit
Right.
called
It's called New Vice.
yeah, very like Minority Report
and then
style.
there's also
Oh,
the
right, it's
government
called-
agency, the National Organ Registry.
Right.
And it all kind of fits together in a very weird and unique way. And I don't think the plan was like Scott Speedman did not want his son to die.
Yeah, it wasn't part of a plan. It was punishment.
Yeah.
Both for the child and for the husband.
Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah.
Scott Speedman's off, I guess,
Speeding around, being
working with
fast.
Being a
this
speed man.
sort of outsider fringe group. I guess then the resentment of that, the mother kills the child and then tells him to come pick up the body.
Yes.
And so...
And he's
Was the son going to be this proof that, hey, we can coexist with this plastic world that we live in and people can digest plastic? Because
I don't-
that's sort of like a weird modern type of idea that was very in line with what he was writing in the 90s, but you can see why it wasn't as like impactful then as it is now. This world where everyone's filled with microplastics and their body is learning how to digest it.
That's disgusting.
Right. And that's something that we come to find out towards the end of the movie. Like in terms of the beginning, like we don't know anything about that. So that opening that's why it's so like insane and shocking, is because we don't know yet what this kid can fucking do and why he's doing it and why the mom hates the son. You know what I mean? Like we don't know at this point, which I mean, and the only reason I'm saying is like, cause like the way this movie is so quiet in its execution.
Yeah,
and
pretty
it's,
understated
really
for sure.
quiet.
yeah, very understated. And for the fact that it comes to this insane ending of where we basically learned that the human body, and this is really jumping ahead, but like the human body has evolved to a point where we can now digest plastic.
Yeah, man-made waste that is, I guess, in Cronenberg's eyes, is necessary for humanity to evolve and continue onward. Because if we can't start consuming all the waste that we create, then we're inevitably going to die. It's not going to be for everybody. It's certainly not as horrific and disgusting as
No, it's not.
the promotions made it out to seem. It's not. I don't even think it's anywhere close to Crash.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's the most Cronenberg movie of the year.
Certainly not. I mean,
Oh, sure.
Like, I was thinking about the ending of Men,
Right.
which people, like, we won't go into it here, but, like, I feel like Alex Garland's new movie, that ending, that third act of Men is something I've never seen in a movie before.
Right.
In
And
a
truly
really
gruesome.
cool way.
yeah.
Yeah, gruesome. Great word for it. But this one is very much, I mean, Sean, you said it. It's understated in terms of Cronenberg, I think, in every way. It really makes a lot of sense. And it's crazy that he wrote this movie in 1996.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's insane to me. And he
it's a
said
pretty-
he didn't change like anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty elegant movie, and clearly it's an art house film,
Yes.
and it moves really slow.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're expecting some bombastic science fiction movie, then you're going to be sorely disappointed because
Yeah.
it's not. It's more of a character piece, and like a lot of Cronenberg's movies, sort of makes you confront these horrific ideas and sort of proposes like an alternative idea to what is considered like horror, like what would be the grossest, most horrifying thing that humans could do. And Cronenberg is really good at just facing those problems, made up or not, and kind of giving a little humanity. I mean, think about something like The Fly.
Yeah.
And it just being, albeit one of the grossest movies ever, it has this really great heart, and the core of the story is very simple and easy to digest, much like the plastic in Crimes of the Future. But
Damn.
I gleaned a lot of interesting things from this movie, as it is about sort of the responsibility of humans and the evolution of the human race, and also
the acceptance of it.
and the acceptance of evolution, and we see that all the time now with gender identity and sexual preference, and he always presents those things in a somewhat ambiguous way, but you kind of understand the idea behind it. You understand because those are real world problems, and he makes it relatable, albeit in a weird kind of sci-fi way, but he is bringing light to some real issues that need to be addressed, and I think it's a really smart movie, and I think it also we kind of discussed this a little bit, John, but it might be a great snapshot into how Cronenberg feels about his own career as an
'cause
artist.
I felt like this is like conspiratorial of me, but I think that the movie is sort of autobiographical. And like Viggo Mortensen is doing his best Cronenberg impression.
Sure.
Right.
And you think about everyone's anticipation for him returning to body horror, and then what you get is this more cerebral version of body horror, sort of reminding you of where he's at as an artist, because his last string of movies have been super heady and art house, and a far cry from something like The Fly, which I think is a perfect movie top to bottom, but it's solidly conventional and solidly familiar in terms of its plot movements.
Right.
Whereas where he's at right now is very sort of off the rails, kind of sort of feels meandering at moments, but the things that are happening in front of you are just so interesting inherently, visually, that you stick around for whatever argument he's trying to make.
Totally. And I think that I found it pretty interesting that, and I don't know if you guys felt this way, but, so we're following Viggo Mortensen as the main character, as Saul Tenser, performance artist, and his performing partner, Lea Seydoux, as Caprice. And they do these sort of avant-garde performance art things where it's like a lot of transhumanism, body modification. Because there is no more pain or infection, they're able to do these sort of outlandish performances where he's having organs removed and things like that.
New organs that he has grown.
He's grown.
They're like malignant tumors or malignant kind of organs that need to be removed from the body one way or another.
Or at least that's what they believe.
That's what they believe. Right.
And so
it turned it into a performance art thing.
Yeah.
We learn after a minute, like he's a very famous performance artist, but then we learn that he actually hate that his body's doing this. He's
Right.
working undercover for New Vice, this organization that's, I guess, trying to
Get the bad boys.
get the bad boys. But I mean, I guess one of the questions this movie's asking is like, who are the bad boys? Or, are they bad? Because we later find out that it's Lang, Scott Speedman's character, doesn't really seem to be the bad guy. He's trying to, I can't remember, is he going about it in a bad way? I forget.
Not necessarily. I think that they're just trying to bring light to this evolution in humanity, and that the police find it, or New Vice and the government find it dangerous for this new evolution because they think that it's going to make people not human anymore.
Right.
Like this next step in evolution. So there is this like sort of underground fringe group, which they're not even terrorists. They're just a group of people that have now developed this ability to digest plastic and waste and things like that in a way that a normal human could not. And I think that new idea, or that new evolution, is causing this fear for the government and law enforcement, and they're trying to track. That's why the organ registry is a thing that exists. They're trying to make sure
Right.
that they keep track of all the people that have all these new organs. And it does feel very relatable because Saul Tenser and Caprice are both very reasonable characters.
Oh, yeah.
You would think that they would be just some outlandish, like, over the top performance artists, but they seemingly are like some of the most grounded characters in the whole movie.
Yeah, big time.
And their art or their performance is always in question, even by them. They're constantly questioning like, what is this? Or is their performance truly art, and what is artistic about it? And you see like what makes this art performance is Viggo Mortensen's opposition to his own evolution. And so he's constantly trying to remove progression of his own body and presenting it as art. Whereas in the end, he discovers that his true enlightenment is found when he kind of embraces his body's evolution and accepts, his body for what it is and what it's doing and how it's developing, instead of fighting back and rejecting it. And instead it's making him really sick.
Yeah.
And he has all these like weird contraptions, like, in classic Cronenberg fashion, there's a bed that just looks like a pile of skin or
Flesh,
something that like
It's like
moves
almost
around.
in the shape of a heart, kind
Yeah,
of.
and a chair that looks
real
like
fleshy.
very skeletal, that just shakes him around to help
The
him
idea is
digest
supposed-
food.
Yeah, it's supposed to like alleviate his pain because he still feels pain.
Right.
And help him digest his food. It's kind of like rocking him in these really
there's a bed
hypnotic
version, and then
movements.
there's a chair version, and the chair the chair helps you eat,
Yeah.
and the bed helps you alleviate pain, and I guess his body. And they're very, they look very Cronenberg-y, look
Yeah.
very existency.
He has a
Yeah,
lot of like
exactly.
very, technology in Cronenberg movies is always very like organic looking.
Yeah.
Yes.
It looks like something you would see under a microscope.
Yeah.
I mean, even when they do their live performances, he puts himself in basically this surgery pod, and that they've repurposed for the sake of art. And it's just this very like bug-like structure. It's like a pod that just looks like you're in a weird bug cocoon almost.
Yeah, and it's got the technology though of like basically performing complex surgery.
Right.
Like that's one of the most futuristic things about the whole movie.
Yeah.
Because one
It's like an autopsy machine, I think.
No, it was intended.
for surgery.
Oh, maybe it was for autopsy.
Oh, is
I
that
thought
what it
that was
is?
like its original
Oh, yeah.
design, and so it has this weird duality to it where the thing was designed to work on people after they're dead.
Right.
But now that
Oh,
we're in this
that makes
society
sense.
where people don't feel pain,
Right.
it can do all
It can
those functions,
become
and
what they use it for. That makes perfect sense.
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I mean, obviously they as the movie progresses, they do an autopsy, and
Yeah, that's basically what the performance art show ends up being, is this kind of weird Cronenberg-y autopsy sequence.
and I guess his like, their greatest achievement as artists is, weirdly enough, doing this autopsy on this dead child, which is done very tastefully and not in a way that I feel like is making light of the fact that it's like a dead child being operated on. I think the point is that this surgery enlightens everybody and opens up their eyes to being like, oh, we understand the future now. And that's when Viggo gives into the
Right.
temptation.
My God, are you still talking?
And the reason that the child is so important, though, is because Scott Speedsman Lang, him and his crew have essentially modified themselves to digest plastic, correct?
Yeah, they
Right.
weren't born that way.
They weren't born that way, but this child was.
Yes.
And that was the quote unquote miracle.
Right.
Yeah,
He,
so
he
they-
was going to change everything, but the mom didn't care. Like, she was just distraught that she had, in her mind, a freak. I mean, and again, all of that's very, metaphorical and it's
course.
wonderful. But yeah, man, there's a lot going on in this fucking movie.
There,
And
there really is, for as deceptively simple as it is. It really
a lot of
kinda-
ideas.
a lot of big ideas at play, and it's definitely one of those movies that the more I think about it, the more interesting it becomes, which I
Yes.
think
Yeah,
is
it really grows on you.
yeah,
Yes.
and I think that that's not always a common occurrence in modern cinema, and I know people will hate it, and I've seen plenty of people be like, "This is the most disgusting movie ever made." And
crazy.
like,
It's
well,
so-
clearly you've only seen one other movie, I guess,
Yeah.
because it's definitely not.
It's,
You know, like,
I mean, I would argue in terms of Cronenberg's body horror movies, it's one of the tamest, if not the tamest.
for sure. I mean, obviously, there's like a sexual nature to all of it. There's the theme
Yeah.
that surgery is the new sex.
Kristen Stewart is super horny in this movie.
Crazy horny for
Crazy
surgery.
horny.
Yeah.
Yeah, she loves surgery. She's obsessed with Viggo Mortensen.
This movie makes me crazy horny.
Yeah, yeah, you
Yeah.
said that, and then they had to make you leave the theater.
I had to leave the theater twice.
twice. Yeah, you somehow got back in.
Came back
We,
in.
Yep.
I didn't even notice it at first, but there you were.
Yeah,
I didn't notice until you were
break
right.
in the lobby, and then they let you back in. And
Oh, wow.
second offense is you're out of here.
You're out of here. Well,
Yeah.
you pushed the buttons and you found out, didn't you?
Oh, I
You
found
fucked
out.
around and you found out.
Yes, fooked around, found out.
Yeah, definitely one of the weirder performances from Kristen Stewart. I was
I
very,
loved it.
very into it. It was fun.
I've proud to say I've always been a Kristen Stewart stan, but it's wonderful to see she just got that Oscar nomination for Spencer, which I think was much deserved.
I thought so too. Yeah.
And this performance, it's definitely swinging for the fences. It's weird, it's bizarre, but
And it's a big swing from what she normally does. Like
is.
her comfort zone is usually always understated, sort of mumblecore,
Mm-hmm.
kind of fidgety, and playing with tones of being meek and kind of
Right.
small. Whereas this is very electric and frenetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
For
soon
sure.
enough, Cronenberg's just going to have the entire Twilight cast in one of his movies.
He says
Oh,
he
yeah,
has an
'cause of
idea
Robert
for
Pattinson.
them
didn't
for a
think about
movie
that.
for them to be in together.
Yeah, I mean, Pattinson's in two Cronenberg
Cronenberg, of
movies,
course, yeah.
and arguably not my favorite of the Cronenberg catalog, but that's
But-
eye of the
right.
beholder, I guess. But it's cool to post Twilight to see actors like Robert Pattinson and also Kristen Stewart like making sort of these bold choices and working with sort of well established. I don't want to call Cronenberg an art house director because he has a lot of range, but overall his movies aren't necessarily for the masses at large.
Sure.
So they're taking these choices where it's like this might be a fairly conflicting movie. If I read that script, I don't know how I would have considered like where my career would be after
Sure.
doing a movie like this.
Yes.
Or if it would have any effect at all, or if it's just a passionate project kind of thing.
It
But I
feels
thought
like
she was
this-
really cool.
It feels like this weird thing, speaking of like it getting made now, where he was maybe having a hard time getting something made because it's been almost, I think it's like 8 years since his last feature.
Yes.
And I wonder if he's able to do it by agreeing to do his body horror thing again, but then covertly sneaks in these really heady ideas and sort of
Yeah.
predictions and sort of philosophizing about the future and everything.
Yeah, because I going back to Viggo Mortensen's character, where he has all this inner conflict and turmoil, even though he seems sort of with it and sort of understands his position in the world, he's still working with this undercover police unit, the New Vice,
Yeah.
where they're basically trying to take a tally on all these people with these sort of evolved digestive systems where they can eat plastic. He's also, he's giving them information while doing his performances. So he's kind of, in essence, he's a bit of a sellout. And he's
for sure.
He's,
Do you like the way plastic tastes?
I keep trying to eat it. If I was
Keep going to the emergency
if I could
room as
evolve
well.
to eat plastic and not give a shit, why not?
Sure.
what's to
Jordan,
stop me?
if I could, sure, why not?
Same.
There's got to be some good tasting plastic. Right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's
Or
why
you can-
doggies and kitties chew on
Right.
it so
Tastes
much.
sweet, right?
Yeah, and
Clearly,
then
like
they,
Scott Speedman
electrocute
does in the
themselves.
movie, they find a way to at least make it delicious for them and put it in candy bar form. So
Yeah.
Yes, I thought that was really cool.
Once it hits your lips, it's so good.
There's
was
like
cool.
candy bars of
The
shredded.
big purple protein bars, or something
yes,
like that.
Yeah,
yeah, that's essentially
Gary Snowpiercer style food.
repurposed
Yeah.
plastic, I guess.
So like you were saying earlier, he's got this small audience, this diehard audience that's going to come see his movies. How is this movie performing, Jordan? Give us the numbers. Let's talk brass tacks.
Well, for Crimes of the Future, it is, as of this recording, it's made about $3.2 million in the U.S. and not much more worldwide. That's pretty par for the course, minus a few exceptions. He's had some movies that have done very well. Even
The Fly.
The Fly is his biggest grossing movie, period. 40 million domestically and 60 million worldwide. But keep in mind that's in 86.
Yeah.
And that was considered quite a success at the time.
yeah.
But I mean, even A History of Violence did 31 million in the U.S., which pretty solid performance for Cronenberg. Same with Eastern Promises, 17 million. That's on the high end for him. So this movie is going to make its money on VOD, video on demand, and I mean, maybe not really physical media, but like his movies always find his audience always finds his movies. I think this movie is going to age very well.
There's a timeless nature to it.
Absolutely.
There's no. I love. This is in this sort of advanced future. Or not, I wouldn't even necessarily call it advanced. It's actually like society is sort of collapsing.
Yeah, I would almost call it opposite.
But there is access to sort of surreal technology, but there's no cell phones, there's no computers. All the
love
technology is sort of these sort of organic,
Which is a super 90s thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Existenz is like a PlayStation covered in skin. You know, you're like,
yeah.
So even basic modern technology has been removed, which I think is great and which makes it like a movie like Crimes of the Future so timeless, or will be just as interesting in 10 years, 20 years as it is today.
Yes, absolutely.
Because you understand the larger ideas at play, or at least it makes you confront some of those ideas, and those are timeless.
Yes.
Those conflicts are timeless. Like the government trying to control your body, timeless.
Yes.
People like artists being confused and trying to find meaning in their art. That
Being
those are
on the
timeless
edge of like
concepts.
criminality.
Right,
There's
exactly.
sort of like this police force that's gaining power and kind of hovering over artistic expression and sort of determining what can and can't be done to express art.
Yeah.
Even
in a crumbling society where what is clearly needed is some kind of evolution. It's still being denied by the government and the police,
Right.
and things like that, where I think is as timeless as it gets.
Yes.
It's in like all of his movies if you look for it, where it's always about some tip of the spear of great technological advancement, the negative consequences of that or the fallout from that, set to the backdrop of the idea of utopia, but we always eventually find the back alleyways or the docks or abandoned houses or abandoned ships and stuff, because like Viggo Mortensen and the cop are always meeting by these abandoned boats in a like this super rusty dock area, and that's
it
in
looks
all
like
of his movies, like Videodrome. It all climaxes at these abandoned docks and stuff.
Totally.
Like the edge of what society deems utopia is rotting and corrosive, and it always mirrors the sort of like sickness that his movies are about, the sickness of the body and the sickness of the environment that we put our bodies in.
Even in like a perceived utopia, there's still people that are left behind, and that still needs to be discussed. And I think that obviously that's a problem in our reality now, but I think the great part about Cronenberg, and also sort of like the disheartening part about Cronenberg, is he's probably right about the human progression.
Dude, look at Videodrome.
I want you to open up, Max.
In that movie, I don't think, did that movie perform super well when it came out?
No.
Right, and look at it. That is one of the coolest movies to rewatch right now, just because of where we're at with the internet and how ingrained
right
we are.
and how right he was.
Yeah.
Like we are
30
sucked
years
in.
ahead.
And also Debbie Harry.
Debbie Harry,
for sure.
incredible in that movie.
Yes, she is. I really think that Crimes of the Future is such a great, I don't want to say a cherry on top of his career, because he's clearly not done, but the fact that it's so...
How's that motherfucker?
I mean, he's got to be in his 70s.
How old is he?
79.
That's crazy.
That's Joe Biden's age.
Joe Biden.
He looks good, honestly, for 79.
Hell yeah, and
He
he's
looks
sharp as a fucking
real
tack.
Yeah, for sure. That's crazy.
I mean, he's still making movies like this that are still very relevant and thought provoking, and
Yeah.
don't feel
Sidney
phoned
Lumet
in
or
at all.
Scorsese, like they're
for real. He's still
making
going strong
really
in his age. And I guess
edgy
that's what I
shit.
mean. Like, he has all this experience now versus when he was making Videodrome or even Existenz. He's got almost 20 years more experience. And I think that's what makes part of what makes Crimes of the Future so good. Is like he's at such a higher level now than when he was making those other movies. And that's obviously he was at quite a level making those movies. He's always been amazing, but it's just really cool to see like he's just doing everything he's always done, but he's just that much better at it.
And there's a lot of subtlety to Crimes of the Future.
It's really subtle.
That kind of forces you to examine what it's about, which I think is a testament of a great filmmaker. I don't want everything necessarily force fed to me when I'm watching a movie.
I mean,
like
as we just said, is like this movie, because we saw it at this point almost 2 weeks ago or so, and it's only gotten better. Just the more I'm thinking on it, especially as we're talking about it now, I'm just like, fuck, this movie is really good.
Yes. Yeah, it really fits into his body of work. No pun intended. And like a very nice capper if it ends up being one of his like final movies, which at this pace, like I said, Maps to the Stars was I think 8 years ago.
That sounds right. I think it was 2014. So yes, 8 years ago.
That was his last movie.
I think, unless he did. Wild. I don't think he did Dangerous Method after that. I think that was.
I think that was like
Maps.
2011, 2012 ish.
Yeah. So at this pace, this is maybe going to be this is fucked up, but I guess this is the episode to talk about it. But he's
getting up there.
Yeah, this motherfucker's 79 years old.
Yeah. He's getting up there.
That is capital OLD.
I don't know what the general consensus among Cronenberg fans is about this movie, but I think
it's been pretty well received.
Yeah, I think cronies, Cronebones.
Yeah.
I think Cronebones like. They likey Crimes of the Future.
I mean, it's very well reviewed, and it's
What did you say?
Cronin boners.
Cronin boners. They're growing.
They are
getting bigger every day.
I think that I just, I'm always excited to see anything he does. I don't necessarily always connect with everything. Like, Maps of Stars, I should give a rewatch. That was a tough one.
I've never seen that either. I've never seen it. So
twice.
Really?
It's weird as fuck, but I love it.
It is. And also Cosmopolis was kind of soft on.
And I didn't see that either. And just, it didn't happen. No reason, just...
But even in those movies, maybe not his, or to me, maybe not his greatest work, but they're still
out there.
Interesting and inherently Cronenberg. And what is just so refreshing about his movies is he still just does whatever the fuck he wants.
I was going to say, at least he's still fucking around. He's just like, let's just try it.
I recently watching interviews with him, he constantly talks about how he's not making movies for everybody.
Yeah.
He's like, some people are going to like this and understand what I'm going for, and some people aren't, and that's fine.
I did see an interview very recently where he was talking about like he expects more people are going to watch Crimes of the Future on their iPad than anyone will watch it in a theater or on TV, and it's like he acknowledges it.
And he's one of those filmmakers that's always been pushing technology, so he's very much like future minded.
Yes, and very much so, and he
embraced digital right away.
Yes, and it's just like, you know what, that's cool. I think it's smart. I mean, I love the theatrical experience, not to get into that, but it's just nice to see a filmmaker who's just like, look, I'm just being honest. I know where my audience watches these movies the most.
Yeah,
and that's okay.
Sean, what's your favorite Cronenberg movie? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's a tie between The Fly and Videodrome for me.
He fucking predicted the internet and social media and like the metaverse with avatars and stuff.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time. I'm due for a rewatch of that Videodrome.
Highly recommended.
Man, it holds up. And it gets better with every rewatch.
Yeah.
I watch it probably like once or twice a year. I fucking LOV that move. Jordan, what's your favorite? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's The Fly.
What do you like about The Fly, Jordan?
Honestly, I just love the effects specifically. They're so gnarly. They're so gross. They're so cool. And I think because there's just so much animatronic shit. And I mean, look, I love Jeff Goldblum, especially in that era. I love him in any era. Let's be real.
He is.
But
Gina Davis.
I was just gonna say Gina Davis. I don't know. It's
sexy tension.
I think a lot of it is because I saw it. It was my first Cronenberg movie that I saw. And I saw it fairly young, and it was probably one of the more out there movies that I had seen at whatever age I was at, probably 8 or 9 or something.
Definitely a gross one to see as a kid.
Yeah,
right,
great
but
age
I loved
to watch
it.
that movie.
I loved it. I thought it was the coolest fucking
We're recording
thing,
this episode on Daddy Day. I want to thank Philly Hoont for raising such a fine young gentleman.
Such a weak young boy.
Thank you, Daddy.
Big-brained, Littlefoot, cross-eyed freak who watched The Fly
At 8 years old.
8 years old.
Cried himself to sleep, wet his bed every night for 20 years after that.
Still happening.
Still happening for 38 years after that.
Outside of Cronenberg, what's your favorite body horror movie, Sean? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now.
And body horror is a tough one for me because I don't always love it. And I feel like really good body horror has to be done by somebody like Cronenberg, an experienced or more interesting art house director where there's a reason for it. It's not just
Boring. Answer the question.
I don't
Yeah.
have an answer.
Jordan, what's your answer? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now.
I regret telling Sean to stop talking because now I don't know.
Oh, what is it? Gerald's game?
Here's an easy one.
You piece of shit.
Here's an easy one, ding dongs. The Thing.
Oh, shit.
I mean, you
What,
could
is
call
that
that
body horror?
Yeah, I think it's body horror and cosmic horror kind of coming together.
Cosmic horror.
Cosmic
okay,
body
okay,
horror,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Yeah, I will
Easy.
go with that. That does make a lot of sense.
You know what? Let's all agree that The Thing is great.
Yeah, came out 40 years ago this month.
Yes. I
Yeah.
don't know if this month, but this summer.
Maybe it was a July release.
It may be. Would have to double check on that.
Wah wah wee wah.
Pretty damn good movie, eh?
Yes.
Yeah, it is not just a damn good movie. It's one of the greatest movies.
It's one of the
ever
greatest
made.
movies ever made. And part of a little hint on perhaps maybe the next episode, the summer of 1982, one of the greatest summers for film ever.
No doubt about it.
Do yourself a favor and look up great movies from 1982. At least I think we'll be primarily focusing on American films.
Yeah.
But because of where the country's at that time, it's a pretty unique period of filmmaking. So do yourself a favor, go back and start looking at those movies because it has a lot to do with maybe why our country's in such great shape. You know.
Yeah, and you can also email us and tell us what movies you like. Send us a text message. Send us a written letter.
Written letter would be preferred. We'll not give you our address, though, because fuck
No,
you.
no, you can fax us.
How
true.
expensive are burner phones? Maybe we should get a Very Famous Movie podcast burner phone.
Should we?
That would be fun.
What do you guys think? Text us on our new burner phone to let us know.
555-5555.
Area code
VFFFF.
512.
512-555-5555.
It's real. And I guess that's it for today, huh, guys?
Yeah, we put in the work.
Let's take some questions from the audience.
What do you guys think?
I don't.
Anybody? Wow, what a great audience.
Well, I think that concludes this episode of Very Famous Movie Podcast.
We hope you learned nothing.
We still haven't
As
figured out a
always.
way to consistently end this episode, so hopefully this will do. And DM us or text us and ring us up and let us know which episodes you're liking, which ones you're not.
Which host do you like the most?
Yeah, is there a host that
you know what?
prefer?
Just give us some feedback, will
Ooh,
you?
let's rank. Should we
Let's-
do a
Should
online
somebody be
ranking?
punished?
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
But you should be
Maybe their
leaving some
eyebrows.
reviews
Shave
on
their
Spotify,
eyebrows.
on Apple. Shave your eyebrows. Let us know what you think. Let us know how much you hate / love us. All the interaction is good for us. So.
If we get 1,000 listens, Jordan will get a tattoo of your name on his neck.
And that's our show, folks. Here's hoping David Cronenberg lives long enough to make another movie so we can do another episode on him. Because frankly, we love David Cronenberg and everything he does. Join us next time for The Summer of '82.